Well, it's gonna be too late then. By that time, you already know, Ocho, how the NFL is. It's hard. You lose that. You start out losing and make the playoffs. They're not built like that. They don't have that type of roster. They don't have that type of weaponry. And I'm just trying to figure out why you want to see him on personnel groupings when it's my day. When it's come to his day, okay, now you can see it. So what about tomorrow? Why? So we can't do these groupings tomorrow?
Yeah.
So what was so special about my day that I'm supposed to get the reps? We supposed to alternate. So you didn't want to see him with the group.
That is the question sitting underneath this entire quarterback battle. If the Browns already know what they want to see from Deshaun Watson, why does the evaluation seem different when it comes to Shedeur Sanders? Welcome back to NFL Pulse, because the deeper you go into this, the less this feels like a simple preseason depth chart argument.
Tomorrow, huh?
Hey, I'm with you on this one, Ocho. I think you give Deshaun Watson a fair shake. You know, you give him an opportunity to really come out and show and prove if he can get back to that elite quarterback play that he once was. I don't know. But I think it's gonna be a short leash though, Uncle Ocho. I don't think it's gonna be like y'all saying 5-6 weeks. I don't think it's gonna take that long.
And notice what Shannon Sharpe is actually saying there. He is not demanding that Cleveland hand Shedeur the starting job. He is questioning the process. Give Watson the opportunity to prove he can still be the quarterback Cleveland invested in. Absolutely. But how long does that opportunity last if the offense does not move? That distinction matters because there is a massive difference between giving a veteran a fair chance and protecting a veteran from legitimate competition. And later, we have to get into the biggest problem with that entire approach. Cleveland might not have the kind of roster that can afford to spend 5 or 6 regular season games discovering whether the old version of Watson still exists.
And Deshaun Watson's success is going to be contingent on those that are surrounding him. Judy, Concepcion, Bond, them boys.
He got some weapons though. He got some weapons, Ocho.
Does. Them boys have to be on point. They got to be on point. I'm talking about every rep, no mistakes, no errors, getting open, being efficient, yak, run after catch. I mean, they got to be on point.
That is where this stops being only about quarterback talent. Watson's success is tied to everything around him functioning at a very high level, and the panel is basically laying out the burden Cleveland's offense would carry. Receivers have to separate, routes have to be precise, protection has to hold, mistakes have to disappear. The quarterback has to process what is happening quickly enough to take advantage of all of it. That is a lot to ask from any offense, especially one trying to find its identity. And this is why Shedeur's supporters are getting frustrated. Their argument is not necessarily that he is already a finished NFL quarterback. It is that if the competition is genuine, the coaching staff should be trying to determine which quarterback gives this specific roster the best chance to function, not which player has the biggest contract, not which player has the longest resume. Which quarterback makes this team better right now? That answer cannot come from one carefully managed practice period. It has to come from comparable opportunities.
Did they beef up that offensive line?
Well, I don't know about that.
Huh? Did they do something to that offensive line, man? Yeah, that's gonna make the biggest difference right there. Hey. All them weapons sound and look good out there, okay?
They gonna make.
But hell, if I ain't got no blocking back here, I can't see Nathan.
Huh?
And there is the next layer, the offensive line. Everybody loves talking about quarterbacks because quarterbacks are easy to blame and easy to credit. But if Cleveland cannot protect consistently, this entire debate changes. A struggling offensive line can make a veteran look washed and a rookie look unprepared. That is why the evaluation has to go beyond completion percentage in camp. Who identifies pressure? Who gets the ball out on time? Who creates when the play breaks down? Who avoids turning a bad protection into a disastrous play? Those are the snaps that matter. If Shedeur is getting work behind different personnel groups than Watson, then comparing their results becomes complicated. Shannon's point about personnel is important because an evaluation only means something when the conditions are reasonably comparable. If one quarterback gets the more favorable grouping while another spends his reps dealing with backups, protection breakdowns, or receivers who are unlikely to play major regular season snaps, fans are going to question what exactly the staff is measuring. And that skepticism will only grow if the preseason games tell a different story from the depth chart.
Thing is, Joe, you say maybe he can get back. If he get back to that elite status, it'll be the greatest turnaround in NFL history.
Hello.
No player has ever have such a precipitous drop and recapture it. It's hard. Now, we've seen players drop off a year and come back. You know what I'm saying? Okay, in 2019, played bad, came back in 2020, hit it up, and went back like he was. But to have this many years off and to pick back up where he once, we've never seen that in the history of the game. Never.
This might be the most important piece of context in the entire conversation. Shannon is talking about how difficult it would be for Watson to return all the way to the elite level people remember from years ago. That is not an insult. It is a football reality. Players rebound from bad seasons. Players recover from injuries. Players change teams and rediscover something. But the longer the gap between elite performance and the present becomes, the harder it is to simply assume that version is coming back. And that is where Cleveland's decision becomes uncomfortable. The organization is not choosing between the 2020 version of Watson and Shedeur Sanders. It is choosing between the quarterback Watson is now, the quarterback the coaches believe he can become again, and a young quarterback they are still trying to evaluate. Those are three different things. The name on the back of the jersey cannot make that decision for you. The contract cannot make that decision for you. The memory of what somebody once did cannot make that decision for you. Eventually, the offense has to answer it. That is also why the preseason suddenly matters more than people normally admit. Every live rep creates evidence. If Watson looks sharp, decisive, and comfortable, Cleveland can defend staying patient with him. If Shedeur looks better when the game becomes unscripted, the pressure on the staff increases immediately.
Especially there.
You think, but my thing is, the only reason why I say it's going to be tough, Uncle Ocho, because he hadn't played elite in quite some time. Because I think he got the weapons, man. Hell, at the end of the day, is
they're okay now, Joe. Let's not get carried away. He ain't got Cincinnati weapons. He ain't got what the Rams got.
He got some weapons.
Hey,
every team can't be loaded like Cincinnati or the Rams or.
Now we get to the argument that could decide how quickly this situation explodes. Does Watson have enough around him? One side says yes. He has NFL weapons, the coaching staff can design around what he does well, and the quarterback is responsible for elevating the people around him. The other side says Cleveland does not have the kind of overwhelming talent that can cover for inconsistent quarterback play. Both ideas can be true. A quarterback does not need an all-pro at every position to play winning football. But when you are talking about a player attempting to recapture a level he has not shown in years, the margin for error gets thinner. If the quarterback needs elite protection, elite separation, an elite running game, and perfect play calling just to look comfortable, then you are no longer talking about a quarterback carrying an offense. You are talking about an offense carrying a quarterback. That is the standard Cleveland has to watch. And if you want the full breakdown as this quarterback competition develops, subscribing is the easiest way to catch it, because the next argument is where the Browns situation gets much harder to defend.
When you loaded like that, what do you do? And when you're not loaded like that, what do you do? Miss the playoff? Meddle around?
Yeah.
It's not an accident. Talent wins. As much as we want to say, this and that. Talent
this is the NFL. This is the best of the best.
Yes.
Now we can't. You got to work with what you got. So what they do have, even if there's different levels of said talent, spread it around throughout the teams, right? Whoever the offensive coordinator is for the Cleveland Browns, you got it. It's all about knowing your personnel, not only knowing your personnel, but knowing your players' strengths. Playing to their strengths, putting them in positions to make the plays.
That exchange gets directly to coaching. Chad Johnson is essentially saying the coordinator has to know the personnel, understand the strengths and weaknesses of the quarterback, and build the offense around what these players can actually execute. That sounds obvious, but NFL teams get themselves into trouble all the time when philosophy becomes more important than personnel. A coach can love a certain concept. He can believe in a specific timing structure, protection system, or progression. But if the quarterback does not process that concept well, or the offensive line cannot hold up long enough for it to develop, continuing to force it is not discipline, it is stubbornness. That applies to Watson, and it applies to Shedeur. If Watson is at his best operating one way, build around that. If Shedeur shows he can handle movement throws, extend plays, attack specific areas of the field, or get the offense into better looks, then the staff has to acknowledge that too. The competition should reveal what each quarterback allows Cleveland to become. This is also where the public conversation gets distorted. People start treating it like Team Watson versus Team Shedeur, when the real question is much simpler: what gives the Browns the highest probability of winning? Fans do not owe a quarterback patience because of his salary. Coaches do not owe a rookie the starting job because social media likes him. The standard has to be performance, command, consistency, and the ability to make the offense function against actual NFL defenses. Once you frame it that way, preseason snaps become extremely valuable because they strip away some of the protection of practice. Defenses disguise things. Pass rushers finish plays. Windows close faster. Coaches cannot control every look the quarterback gets. That is where the competition starts becoming real.
But putting them in positions to make plays, knowing their strengths and their weaknesses, is going to be extremely important. I know you got an offense to run. I know you have a scheme. I know a way you have a way of that you like to do things. But if you don't have the personnel to do what you like to do, you got to finagle a little bit.
You can't finesse that much. Ocho, you 30 cent away from a dime.
And there is the counterpoint. You can only scheme around deficiencies so much. At some point, talent wins. Execution wins. The quarterback has to make the throw. The receiver has to separate. The tackle has to block. The running back has to recognize pressure. Coaching can create advantages, but it cannot magically erase every weakness on the roster. That is why I would be careful blaming everything on scheme if Watson struggles. The same standard has to apply to Shedeur too. If he gets his opportunity and misses open throws, holds the ball too long, or fails to recognize pressure, then those mistakes have to count against him. Fair competition cuts both ways, but fairness requires opportunity. That is the part Shannon keeps circling back to. You cannot say one player failed an evaluation he barely got to participate in. If the Browns genuinely believe Watson is clearly ahead, the preseason should make that obvious. If it does not, the staff will have a much tougher question to answer.
The hell you mean finagle? Let me ask you a question. Do they got more talent than the Texans?
Offensively?
However you want to put it. Offensively, defensively. What about Jacksonville?
Ooh, Jacksonville loaded.
What about the Colts? What about the Broncos? What about Kansas City? What about the Chargers?
See?
What about Cincinnati? What about the Ravens?
Yeah.
Well, I just went through, so
yeah,
where are they?
Yeah, they like.
So when I put it to you like that.
Matter of fact, what you just did is you named tier one teams when it comes to.
Now listen to the teams Shannon starts naming, because this is where the stakes move beyond Cleveland's quarterback room. Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Denver, Los Angeles, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore. He is forcing the conversation away from an internal depth chart and toward the AFC playoff race. That matters because the Browns are not making this decision in isolation. Every week they spend searching for offensive answers is a week another conference opponent can create separation. A slow start does not automatically end a season, but digging out becomes much harder when your conference is packed with teams that already know who their quarterback is and what their offensive identity looks like. That is the danger of treating September like an extension of training camp. If Cleveland decides Watson deserves the first opportunity, fine. The bigger question is what the trigger for change becomes. Is it 2 bad games? 4? 6? Does he have to look completely overwhelmed? What if he is merely average while Shedeur has shown flashes suggesting the offense might have a higher ceiling with him? Those are not questions you want to begin answering after the team has already fallen multiple games behind, and this is where the money angle becomes impossible to ignore. A major financial commitment naturally creates pressure for an organization to exhaust every possible path before moving away from that player. That does not mean coaches are literally choosing the contract over performance, and we should not claim that without evidence. But fans understand incentives. They know organizations want expensive bets to work. So if Watson remains ahead while Shedeur looks better in live action, every decision becomes subject to that suspicion, whether Cleveland likes it or not. The only way to kill that narrative is with performance.
Talent.
I named teams in the AFC.
I'm going by tiers, though.
Okay, we're going to take that division. Let's take that
below
division.
that.
Do they got more talent than Baltimore? Cincinnati? Pittsburgh?
That might be a little even. Now that might be a little even.
Okay, let's go to the AFC South. Houston.
They up there.
They got more talent than Houston, yes or no? Jacksonville.
Jacksonville got the edge offensively, but go ahead.
The Colts.
Ooh, the Colts is loaded, boy. Colts loaded.
Okay, now we got Tennessee.
Yeah, that's about even. That's about even.
And this comparison is brutal because it exposes where Cleveland may actually sit in the conference talent hierarchy. Shannon and Chad go division by division trying to find teams the Browns can clearly say they are more talented than offensively, and the list is not exactly reassuring. Whether you agree with every comparison is almost beside the point. The larger point is that Cleveland cannot walk into this season assuming the supporting cast will overwhelm opponents while the quarterback figures things out. That changes how much patience the Browns can afford. If you have one of the most talented rosters in football, maybe you can survive uneven quarterback play for a stretch. Your defense steals a game, your running attack steals another, your receivers turn short throws into explosive plays. But if you are closer to the middle of the conference, quarterback uncertainty becomes much more expensive. This is where the Shedeur question becomes bigger than whether people think he is exciting. Rookie quarterbacks come with risk. There are protections they miss, coverages they have never seen, windows they think are open that disappear instantly at NFL speed. Nobody should pretend starting a rookie is some guaranteed solution. But veterans come with risk too, especially when the argument for starting them relies heavily on what they used to be. Cleveland has to compare current risk against current upside. That is the evaluation, and that is why I keep coming back to equal evidence. If Shedeur struggles against preseason defenses, that tells you something. If he moves the offense, protects the football, and consistently creates scoring drives, that tells you something too. The Browns should want as much information as possible before the games start counting. So tell me which matters more to you, protecting the veteran plan or finding out as quickly as possible whether the rookie can actually run this offense. Because those priorities can lead to completely different decisions.
Okay, that's not even. Let's go to the AFC, the AFC West. The Broncos.
That's a different ball game.
The Chargers.
That's a different ball game.
Kansas City.
Different ball game.
The Raiders.
Okay, we back even again. And the other team, and they playing from behind. I don't understand. I don't understand. The team they're playing against doesn't even have to throw the ball, and he's still getting sacks.
This is the point where Shannon's argument stops sounding like hype and starts sounding like roster mathematics. Look at the conference. Denver is not waiting around for Cleveland. The Chargers are not waiting. Kansas City definitely is not waiting. Cincinnati and Baltimore are not waiting inside the division. Even teams that might look comparable on paper can steal a season from you with better quarterback play and a clearer identity. And that is the payoff to the question from the beginning. The biggest issue is not simply whether Shedeur Sanders deserves more reps because fans like what they have seen. The biggest issue is whether Cleveland can afford an evaluation process that takes too long. That is what could make this situation blow up. If Watson earns the job and plays well, the controversy disappears. Winning cures almost everything in football. Nobody is going to spend October arguing about August practice rotations if the Browns are moving the ball and winning games. But imagine the opposite. Imagine the offense starts slowly. The same problems keep appearing, and every broadcast cuts to Shedeur standing on the sideline. At that point, every training camp rep fan's question comes rushing back into the conversation. Why did he not get more work? Why were the personnel groups different? What exactly were the coaches trying to learn? Did they already know who they wanted to start? Those questions become louder with every loss. And once a quarterback controversy reaches that stage, the coach is not just managing two players anymore. He is managing the locker room, the media, the front office, the fan base, and the psychological pressure around every offensive possession. That can become exhausting very quickly.
That's the thing, and the thing is, like, look, I wish Deshaun nothing but the best, but it's just hard for me to see a scenario, guys, where he picks up and became what he became in 2020. Yeah. I just don't see it. I don't. And I think he has to be that in order for them to get to the playoffs. Because those teams that we mentioned, those teams are good. Houston's loaded.
Crazy.
Houston, the Texans are loaded. If CJ can
And the speaker is being fair to Watson there. He says he wants him to succeed. He is not rooting for failure. He simply does not see an easy path back to the version of Watson that once played at an elite level. That is the position Cleveland has put itself in. The Browns do not need Watson to be a nostalgic version of himself. They need him to be better than the alternatives currently in the building. That is a much more reasonable standard, but even that standard has to be demonstrated. This is where numbers alone can fool you. A quarterback might complete a high percentage of passes while constantly checking the ball down and producing very little. Another might complete fewer passes but create explosive plays, convert third downs, and generate touchdowns. Coaches have to evaluate the whole operation. How quickly does the offense get in and out of the huddle? Does the quarterback recognize the blitz? Does he change protection? Do receivers trust where the football will be? Do drives survive obvious passing situations? What happens after a negative play? That is quarterbacking. And on NFL Pulse, that is the part of this competition worth tracking much more closely than whatever order the names appear on a camp depth chart. Because depth charts can change in one afternoon. Trust changes slower. If the offense looks different when one quarterback enters the game, teammates notice, coaches notice, fans definitely notice. Eventually, the film forces the conversation.
No player has ever have such a precipitous drop and recapture it. It's hard. Now, we've seen players drop off a year and come back, you know what I'm saying? Okay, in 2019, played bad, came back in 2020, hit it up, and went back like he was. But to have this many years off, and to pick back up where he wants.
Go back to that point one more time, because this is where the Browns have to separate hope from evidence. Shannon says we have seen players have a poor year and rebound. Of course we have. The unusual part here is the amount of time being discussed between Watson's best football and the version Cleveland is trying to recover. That does not mean recovery is impossible. It means the Browns need checkpoints. This is what smart organizations do when uncertainty is high. They do not simply say, we believe in our guy, and leave the rest undefined. They decide what successful quarterback play looks like, what warning signs matter, and what would force a change. Maybe that benchmark is efficiency on third down. Maybe it is explosive plays. Maybe it is avoiding turnovers. Maybe it is red zone production. Whatever the staff values, it has to be visible in the results. Because if Watson opens the season and the offense cannot score, Cleveland cannot keep moving the goalposts every week. First, it cannot be, he needs more time. Then, the protection has to improve. Then, the receivers need to help him. Then, the schedule was difficult. Every explanation might contain some truth individually, but eventually the quarterback gets judged by the same standard every other starter gets judged by. Does the offense work? And if Shedeur has already shown signs that he can create a functional offense, the pressure to make that change will arrive faster than Cleveland may expect. That is why the preseason matters so much for him. He does not have to prove he is a superstar. He has to make the decision uncomfortable. Complete the routine throws, protect the ball, respond to pressure, show command, turn broken plays into positive ones without creating reckless mistakes. Put together scoring drives. Do that repeatedly, and the discussion changes from should Shedeur get a chance to how long can Cleveland justify not giving him one. That is a completely different level of pressure.
This is the NFL. This is the best of the best.
Yes.
Now we can't. You got to work with what you got. So what they do have, even if there's different levels of said talent, spread it around throughout the teams, right? Whoever the offensive coordinator is for the Cleveland Browns, you got it. It's all about knowing your personnel, not only knowing your personnel, but knowing your players' strengths, playing to their strengths, putting them in positions to make the plays. Understanding your quarterback strength and weaknesses. That's all. I mean, listen, I make it sound easy, but it's not easy.
And Chad's coaching point deserves the final word on the football side of this. Know your personnel. Put players in positions where their strengths actually matter. That principle sounds simple, but it is the quickest way to judge what Cleveland is doing. If the Browns start Watson, the offense needs to look designed for the quarterback Watson is today, not the quarterback he was years ago. If they eventually turn to Shedeur, the offense needs to change around him too. Asking two very different quarterbacks to operate identically just because the playbook already exists would miss the entire point of personnel evaluation. And this is where the competition can actually help Cleveland if they handle it correctly. Shedeur can push Watson. Watson can force Shedeur to accelerate his preparation. The coaches can discover concepts that work with both. The roster can learn which quarterback responds best when things go wrong. Competition is not automatically dysfunction. Badly managed competition is. That is the distinction. The Browns do not need to manufacture drama. They need transparency through reps and clarity through performance. If Watson clearly wins, play him. If Shedeur clearly wins, the fact that he is younger or less experienced should not disqualify him. If neither separates, then Cleveland has a bigger quarterback problem than anybody wants to admit. And subscribing will keep you with us as the preseason gives us actual evidence, because the next few live game opportunities should tell us far more than another week of camp reports ever could.
That's the thing, and the thing is, like, look, I wish Deshaun nothing but the best, but it's just hard for me to see a scenario, guys, where he picks up and became what he became in 2020. Yeah. I just don't see it. I don't. And I think he has to be that in order for them to get to the playoffs. Because those teams that we mentioned, those teams are good. Houston's loaded.
Crazy.
Houston, the Texans are loaded. If CJ could.
So now Cleveland reaches the decision every coaching staff eventually faces. How long do you bet on projection before you respond to what is happening in front of you? Watson deserves to be evaluated on what he does now, not permanently punished for what happened before. Shedeur deserves the same thing, not special treatment because of his name, not reduced opportunity because he entered the league behind veterans, just a real evaluation. And if the Browns give both quarterbacks legitimate chances, this story becomes easy to understand. The best player wins. But if the preseason creates a visible gap and the depth chart refuses to move, then Shannon Sharpe's questions are not going away. They will get louder. That is why the first few games could define the entire conversation. If Watson comes out firing, controls the offense, and reminds people why Cleveland continues to believe in him, Shedeur gets time to develop without the building becoming a weekly referendum. If Watson struggles and Cleveland keeps losing while Shedeur waits, every mistake becomes political, even if the football decision itself is not. Every missed throw becomes evidence for one side. Every camera shot of the backup becomes a story. Every press conference becomes a question about timing, and the coaching staff loses control of the narrative. The easiest way to prevent that is also the hardest thing in professional sports. Remove everything except performance. Forget the contract when you evaluate the snap. Forget the draft position when you evaluate the snap. Forget the reputation when you evaluate the snap. Who sees the field? Who protects the football? Who creates scoring opportunities? Who gives Cleveland the best chance to beat the teams Shannon just listed? That is the answer that matters. So you have to pick one. Should Cleveland give Deshaun Watson a real regular season runway to prove he can still be the guy, or should Shedeur Sanders get the job the moment his play clearly shows he gives this offense a better chance? Tell me where you stand, subscribe to NFL Pulse, and we will see what the Browns actually do when these preseason reps finally turn into real decisions.